Well, we made it. The Super Bowl. But before that, a trade came by, and I didn't think to put it on the script, but again, here we are, the NBA. The Extra Point starts right now. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Extra Point. As always, I'm your host, Griffin Barfield with Tigervision. Over to my panelist desk, we have three panelists ready to talk about their views of what's going on in sports, but most importantly, the Super Bowl. To the left, to the right, Jordan York, Brian Warner, and Toby Corsten. Guys, as always, welcome back to the show. Let's get right in it. And let's start, obviously, it is our Super Bowl episode, so it's going to be mainly stuff NFL. But, I mean, this weekend we were all pretty baffled by a trade that happened in the NBA that involved NBA superstar Luka Doncic got traded from the Dallas Mavericks to the Los Angeles Lakers, is getting paired up with LeBron James, while Anthony Davis is going from the Lakers to Dallas in the deal. It's a three-team deal. The Jazz are in it. There are multiple picks in it. There's multiple role players in it that I do not want to name out. But this is going to be this episode's edition of the hashtag game. So when you saw this trade, what was the hashtag going through your head?
I feel like it's not appropriate to say the hashtag that was going through my head, so instead we're going to go with the hashtag pound for pound, because I thought it was funny that Luka Doncic is bigger than the guy that they got rid of. He weighs more than Anthony Davis, but Luka's supposedly a guard? I don't know, it's weird to me. But no, I think the trade really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I feel like people are trying still to figure out what the meaning of this was, and it doesn't add up. Like, Luka is a face of the franchise type player. Like, I feel like you don't trade him just because he could be a locker room problem or he could have off the court antics or whatever. He hasn't gotten into any like legal trouble or anything. So it doesn't make sense that they traded him really. But short term, I think the Mavs win. I think long term, it's certainly better for the Lakers because they're planning like LeBron only has maybe 1 or 2 years left, and then Luka will be their guy for the future. But not a trade that made a lot of sense. The Spurs one was way better.
I do agree with you in the fact that the Mavs, I believe, won the short term, next 2 years. But I do think the Lakers won the next term. I just don't understand it. And to put a little context, literally, I don't know if you'd see this. This is just question marks because I don't know what's a hashtag. There's no point. To put a little context, the owner or the GM, Nico Hollins, who also orchestrated the 2013 Steph Curry failed pitch at Nike, where he used Kevin Durant's presentation instead of Steph Curry's. Then he called him Seth, all that. Then he went on and let Jalen Brunson walk, which none of us really thought Jalen Brunson was going to pop off, but it was $55 million for 4 years for a second guard, second option. And then now you have Luka leave. Luka loses $117 million. He's no longer eligible for the Supermax contract because he's not with his drafted team. And then, according to Nico, his reasons were that he was overweight. They had concerns about his conditioning, which didn't look overweight when he got pictures last night. And they were worried about paying him money in the future when he has, yes, he's eligible this season, but he's 2.5 more years under contract. It made no sense. And the weight thing, it just baffles me. This guy dropped 32, 10, and 8 in the playoffs, eating quarter pounders on the break when he's like out of the game. And you're going to sit there and be like, it's not good enough. You have to eat healthy. I don't care if he eats freaking chocolate all day like DK Metcalf does for candy. If you're dropping 32, 10, and 8 and taking us to the finals, I could care less what you do. So for me, it doesn't make sense for the Dallas Mavericks. And they didn't even open it. It was a secret trade, so it made no sense. But for me, it's a win for the Lakers for the future. For the Mavs, it's a win now. But the Mavericks are on very thin ice, and I think the GM is on very thin ice with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I went with the Dallas Browse because you got AD going over to Dallas. And I like you said, I think it's helpful for them short term. I think AD is a much better fit if they want to get a championship ring in the next 2 years. You got Kyrie, you got Clay, and then you have 3 7-footers sitting there. That's a tough rotation for anyone to keep up with just because of your size down low. But you still don't make this trade. When you look at guys under 25 that you're looking to build a franchise around, the only other guy you pick over Luka is Victor Wembanyama.
Yes.
There is nobody else in the league. There's no face of a team There's nobody that you pick over him to build a franchise around because part of franchise is winning championships. Yes, you want to put yourself in the best position to win championships, but you also got to make money. And you know what Luka does? He drives jersey sales. He's going to be top 5 in jersey sales every single year. He's going to bring fans out to games. He's going to give you a Christmas Day game no matter what every single year. And when you throw all that away to have a shot at a championship maybe in the next 2 years, it's baffling, like we've all said. And the other thing we have to look at is it's out of the blue, but it's not completely. There's been turmoil all year this year. They were concerned about his health at the start of the year. They basically fired everybody that he liked. That was a quote from him at the start of the year. They got rid of everybody I liked here. They got rid of the strength training coach. They got rid of their nutritionist, and they changed it to try and fix him. They were like, if you're not going to change, we're going to change your environment. Mm-hmm. And yet they still trade him. None of it makes sense. You just don't do this with a face of a team. Like Mavericks fans had a funeral. Nobody's going to go to games. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, especially because the West is ridiculously overpowered. Mm-hmm. You've got the Nuggets with the best player currently in the NBA, in Nikola Jokic. You've got the Thunder, who are doing ridiculous things because SGA has become his prime. He's the best he's ever been. I mean, you've got, obviously from the East, the Celtics, who are the defending champions. You've got the Cavs, who are on fire this year. I feel like there's so many teams. Like, this trade doesn't really help Dallas's chances at all because there's so many teams that are still better than them.
And I don't mind trading Luka. Like, if you're really worried about paying him in the future, if you're worried that in free agency he's going to walk and sign with another team, all right, that's fine. Like, get rid of him if you think it's going to work out better for your future. But they got nothing in return. They got AD, which helps them for these 2 years. But you're looking at some of these other trades. Mikal Bridges got 5 picks. Even De'Aaron Fox got more. Like they got more for him.
Rudy got 4.
Like you're trading one of the faces of the league, and you get 1 first rounder.
Yeah, I don't understand it at all. It makes no sense. I don't know what Nico's thinking. He didn't tell Jason Kidd. He says the only reason he agreed with Jason Kidd was because he was like, I know his mindset. We didn't have to talk. I just know what players he likes. And Jason Kidd's looking over there like he wants to punch him in the face. Well, like, it doesn't work. It's not like I don't know.
And you don't open it up to any other teams because if you told every team in the NBA, you called them up and were like, hey, do you want Luka? They all would be like, yes.
Yeah.
There's not a single team that would hang up the phone right then and there. There would be teams that slowly hung up the phone, but nobody's going to be like, no, we don't want Luka, and hang up the phone.
Correct.
Everyone's going to think about it, and then teams are going to get into a bidding war, and that's when you end up with 4 or 5 first rounders.
And the only issue right now with the Lakers, because it's not all roses and flowers in the Lakers, it's just the fact that they don't have a big man anymore. They needed a big man. AD said he needed a big man, and they said, we'll give you a big man, but we'll send you away. And it didn't work.
I think that's kind of the end-all, be-all of this, and especially with Dallas, too, they now have one of the best. They have probably the best interior defense, having Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, now Anthony Davis on there, but they don't really have that superstar in the backcourt. Whether if it is Kyrie, he is aging, or whatnot, and then we haven't even talked about the Lakers on that side too. That will be interesting to watch. Obviously, we'll keep in touch. Obviously, because of the NBA season still going on while football season is ending, which we are transitioning into right now. This week will be the award ceremony. We obviously know many of the awards already. Offensive Rookie of the Year, it's probably going to be Jaden Daniels. Offensive Player of the Year, probably going to be Saquon Barkley. MVP is the only one that the odds are pretty similarly close between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. But to you guys, who is your MVP? Who you think it's going to be, and who do you think the NFL is going to make it be?
You got to lead us off, Ravens fan.
Do you want me to lead them off? Because I'm looking.
Lead it off. Lead it off. Right. We know what you're going to say.
I'm going to go Lamar Jackson. Now, this is a question that says, who do you think will win it? Yes, Josh Allen has the argument that he has a little less talent. I don't think the disparity is as far as you might think it is. There's some other things there. But as far as Lamar Jackson himself, it's the same people that vote on first team. So everyone voted Lamar Jackson first team, Josh Allen second team. So you have the same voters, and the last time, and I had to look this up because it's been a while, the last time a quarterback did not make first team All-Pro, won NFL MVP, was John Elway in 1987. That's nearly 40 years, I believe. I just don't see them flipping it. I think it will be Lamar Jackson, and personally, I do believe it's Lamar Jackson. You look at some of the stats he puts up. He had 4,000 total passing yards, over 4,000. He had 41 passing touchdowns. He had 4 interceptions. That is 10.25 touchdowns per interception, which means that you're looking at about 60-plus points per interception thrown, per turnover, basically. And I think he's better. I think he's done a lot more. And if you look a little bit more into, I'm going to have to look through my notes a little bit. I've wrote a lot down, I'm going to be honest. I was expecting a very long talk. But if you look at the Pro Bowlers, there is a little bit of a disparity between the two. The Ravens have, as I have down here, the Ravens have 11, but 5 of them are on offense. 1 was a replacement. The Bills had 2 on offense, a QB and a left tackle. The Ravens had a QB, a running back, a fullback, and a wide receiver that should have arguably not even been there. So if you wanted to go by like solidified Pro Bowlers, it would be 3 to 2. First team All-Pros, Ravens had 4, but only 2 were on offense. Their quarterback and their fullback. The Bills had 0. The Bills had 1 second team All-Pro in Josh Allen. The Ravens had 2, 1 on offense, which was the running back. So overall, All-Pros, they had 3. The Ravens had 3 on offense, while the Bills had 1. I don't think the talent disparity is enough to overrule Lamar Jackson's stats, and for that reason, I think they'll still have him winning, and that's why he's my MVP.
My MVP is crossed off because I know he's not going to win it, but Saquon. He had the best season a running backs had really ever. I mean, if we want to go, sure, he didn't break the record. He very easily could have and chose not to because he wanted to pursue a championship instead of just an all-time rushing record. You look at how he has changed Philly, they're so terrifying, it's not even funny. Like, they have the best rushing offense in the NFL, and it's not even close. And it's not just that they have the tush-push merchant in Jalen Hurts. They have a guy that can take any handoff and go 65 with it. First play of the game, it can be third quarter, it can be 20 degrees, snowing, it can be 80 and sunny. Saquon is the most dynamic running back in the NFL, and it clearly showed from the second he stepped foot off the plane in Philly. I think he deserves it, but I'm going to say it goes to Lamar Jackson because it's not really a running backs award. I think that's the first one. I think Saquon will get Offensive Player of the Year, which Griffin had mentioned, and I feel like that's going to check out. But I think Lamar gets it, and it's really crazy that we don't talk about, and obviously it's because his defense was that bad, but Joe Burrow not being in this conversation, I understand why, but statistically, he's the best of any of the options. So it's just crazy to me how this season unfolded because I feel like even if the Bengals found their way to slide into the playoffs, he would have won the MVP, but the Chiefs stopped that from happening.
Well, you mentioned history, Brian, and how long it has been since an NFL MVP who was first team All-Pro wasn't named the MVP.
Yes.
It has been 20 years, 20 plus years, I believe, that the NFL MVP was not a top 2 seed in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Now, what were the Ravens this year?
11, 12 and 5? 12 and 5. They had 5 losses, which I can explain.
So
5 losses.
So what seed were they in the playoffs?
They were 3rd.
Which is not one of the top 2, correct?
No.
Okay.
No.
So one way or another, we're going to make history here.
Okay.
But Josh Allen was dominant in December. 18 touchdowns to 1 interception, and he is the only Pro Bowler on that offense.
Deion Dawkins, left tackle.
He's the only
All-Pro. You're right.
Yes, he is the. I apologize.
You're good. It gets confusing when you look down.
Lamar Jackson has a Heisman in his backfield and a top 5 running back. When you look at what Josh Allen has done, the name is most valuable player. Mm-hmm. When you're the only player on your team making an All-Pro team, when you're the one pulling out all the stops, when you're doing every single thing for the team, you have to win the MVP. And I think he is more valuable to a team than Lamar Jackson is.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead because, like I said, I did a lot of research behind this, so do we have a little bit of time? I'm just going to knock Saquon out real quick. And the reason why I say this is because we're talking about a lot of teammates. The Eagles themselves, if you look on here at the Pro Bowls and All-Pros, they had 11.
Ridiculous.
They had 11 Pro Bowlers, I believe.
Yeah.
Or, excuse me, they had 6 Pro Bowlers, 4 on offense, including 3 of their offensive line.
Yep.
And then they also had 4 second-team All-Pros and 2 first-team All-Pros, including their running back and their right tackle, their left tackle, and their wide receiver.
I didn't say he was going to win it.
Correct.
I just said if it's up to me,
I'm just saying for the
pick him.
viewers. You just happen to pick them. But for the viewers, that's why I think Saquon will be knocked out. It's a lot of, if you're going to go with that argument.
Right.
The Bengals, on the other hand, were 2-7 against playoff teams. and you had the Triple Crown winner. So in other words, you were stat padding, and I get the defense was bad, the defense was awful. But the defense also had the leading sack, like the person that led all NFL in sacks. So I think that just kind of knocks out Bengals. He's obviously not going to win. If you look at the Bills, and you talk about most valuable, the Ravens this year played 12 teams above 500. There are 17 games. They went 9-3. The Bills played 6. They went 3-3. You want to go against playoff teams this year? The Ravens played 10. They went 7-3, including a win over Buffalo in Baltimore where Josh Allen had to get benched. Then you look at the Bills. They played 5, went 2-3 with losses to Houston, where Josh Allen went 9 for 30, and they lost to Baltimore, like I said. Then you want to go into valuable. Lamar threw for less passing attempts, but threw for more yards. But do you want to know the drop percentage in his receivers? The Ravens were 5th. I'm coming down into here. The Ravens were 5th worst in the NFL on drop percentage. They had 5.7. The Bills were 21st, which means that his receivers and tight ends were catching the balls that he was throwing. This is hit the cans, can catch it. The average depth of target, Ravens 8.4, Bills 7.5. Average yards after catch, Bills 2.18, Ravens 2.0. Wide receiver separation, yes, there is good separation by the Ravens because Lamar can buy time. Josh Allen can buy time too. But just because you can separate doesn't mean you're going to catch the ball. And then on top of that, when you said yards traveled over, like throughout the air, so air yards, how far the throw is, Ravens had 2,102, Bills had 1,752. In other words, Josh Allen threw for less yards in the air, and his receivers were able to do more after the catch.
I know this is a regular season award, but what happened when these two teams matched up in the playoffs? In the most valuable circumstances.
And you said that Josh Allen was good only in December, but it's an entire regular season award. So you're just going to count out the first half?
He was stellar the rest of the year. I'm just talking about when you're looking at crunch time
and
when it is
Jordan
the most valuable time of the NFL season.
Correct, but it's not the most valuable time player. It's the most valuable player of the entire season.
He was stellar the rest of the season, too. He's been in the MVP conversation since week 1 and is one of the only people who has stayed there for the entirety of the season.
What they should do with this award, I feel like, is include the postseason.
I agree.
I don't think
And the problem, I mean, that's the only problem I have with it. Lamar gets it because it's a regular season. I think if it's postseason, Josh Allen does. But because Josh Allen doesn't get the benefit of having a postseason head-to-head win, where that is valuable. Franchises want those. That is the difference.
Yeah, but then you have a 1 versus 1. Lamar had the head-to-head on a better win. The Ravens had 3 turnovers and still came within a Mark Andrews drop of winning the game.
But
the fault of those turnovers were who?
Was a fumble, which would have been prevented if Mark Andrews had caught the ball before, which is arguable. Lamar still fumbled it. Lamar still dropped. Lamar threw a pick.
Bad interception. He was great in that second half, but that first half,
but you talked
he's
about,
the reason they're in the hole.
But you just said
Josh Allen
it doesn't matter how you start as long as you finish.
Josh Allen doesn't put them in that hole. They lost the game.
I'll wrap it up with this. I feel like it's as simple as, can we just applaud that for years it's kind of been the best player on the best team, and it's not going to Patrick Mahomes. Let's just like be stunned about that for a minute.
These are two of the best quarterbacks we've seen play the game, and there's no reason why they shouldn't both win.
Yeah.
If there was an award that you could split both the trophies, I think that would be the best eminent situation here. But again, too, when it comes to the NFL, there's always going to be two players. That's how it always is. I remember Mahomes and Rodgers, Mahomes and Brady, all back then. It always seems like it comes down to 2, and you can honestly take either or the other. I think Lamar Jackson is going to be the MVP, although it could go either way, in my opinion. I think that you could even put Saquon in there. But moving on, we are going to skip the coaching side of it, just to kind of, for time's sake. We're going to go into the Super Bowl of it. We have 3 main parts that we're going to talk about in terms of how the Super Bowl is going to be played. It's in New Orleans, Chiefs, Eagles, like we talked about, the second time that these 2 teams are playing in a 3-year span, and perhaps the 2 best teams that we've seen to play together at all this year. So going into it, maybe some X factors. I think that those will always play some really huge margins in points of games. I mean, look at Mecole Hardman last year with the game-winning touchdown. Just thought of the one that came off my head. But if we're looking at X factors for both sides, for both teams, who would they be for both the Chiefs and for the Eagles in this game?
I'm looking at the defensive line for both teams, and I feel like for the Chiefs, it's very obvious. They haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher all season. I feel like if they continue their recipe under Steve Spagnuolo of holding running backs, Philly won't be able to do anything if Saquon can't get going, and I feel like it could be a rout if that happens. But then on the flip side, I think it's important for the Eagles to affect Patrick Mahomes. The last time Patrick Mahomes was really, really affected in a Super Bowl was Super Bowl 55. And what happened in that Super Bowl? The Bucs, led by Tom Brady, absolutely demolished Mahomes because Mahomes was running for his life from start to finish. So I feel like the D-line is going to be huge in this one because a lot of games are won in the trenches, but I feel like it is so clear that the D-line is going to be responsible for the winner of this because the way to stop the offense is through there for both of these teams.
So I put on 4 here. 2 are regular, 2 are honorable mentions, 1 for each team. Excuse me, lost my voice. So I said this last week. I think the biggest matchup to watch is Jalen Carter versus Creed Humphrey. Trying to show the camera. Jalen Carter, defensive line, absolutely, just completely disrupts any type of momentum you could ever have. Pretty much the next coming of Aaron Donald, but more athletic and bigger, which is crazy. Creed Humphrey is the center for the Chiefs. It's going to be big. Whichever one outperforms, I think, will be the big X factor because if you can hold that line against the Eagles, you're going to give Mahomes time to find any receiver. But if Carter can disrupt it, you're not going to give Mahomes any. And you're going to be able to get him down, and you're going to be able to disrupt his momentum and his rhythm. For my honorable mentions, I said the kind of like the more known ones, Saquon Barkley, obviously, and Travis Kelce. If you can have a receiver at least get open and Travis Kelce cooks in the playoffs, maybe Taylor Swift gives him a nice little good luck kiss. And then Saquon Barkley goes out and gives a little, pound and ground or whatever. I don't know which, ground and pound, my bad. If he goes out there and just does what he does, I can see it. I'm like jumbling in my head because I'm like, I don't know how I want to say this. Jalen Carter and Creed Humphrey are my X factors.
Yep. So I'm going a little bit of a different route, but also similar. I think for the Eagles, it's obviously Saquon. You can make arguments for a lot of other people, but when you're looking at who's the X factor for them, their entire offense and their success runs through Saquon. It lets Jalen Hurts have time to throw the ball if he gets going. He can break off those 60-yard runs. I think that's pretty clear for the Eagles. Now here's the problem. The Chiefs need to stop him. And no front four has stopped Saquon Barkley all year. So I'm turning to the quarterback of the defense. That's what I wrote on my board. It is going to be these Chiefs linebackers, Drew Tranquil and Nick Bolton. Those guys are going to be huge because Saquon is going to get to the second level of your defense no matter what. No matter how good your D-line is, there are going to be times where he breaks off runs. It's going to be down to those guys and some one-on-one tackles against Saquon Barkley to stop the explosive plays. And if you can limit Saquon's explosive plays, you limit the entire Eagles offense, and that's going to be the deciding factor in the game. But what I'm excited for is the X factor that we're not talking about. Like, we can talk about all these guys, but the Super Bowl is known for these random guys like becoming these big stars because of the Super Bowl. David Tyree in the helmet catch. You have Malcolm Smith, who had the interception for Seattle. You've never heard of these guys, and then all of a sudden they win a Super Bowl for a team. So yes, you can look at Saquon, you can look at Patrick Mahomes, you can look at these big stars, but there's going to be somebody who comes out of the woodwork and surprises us to win this game.
Reed Blankenship.
And the problem is the way that the team that benefits is the Chiefs. Because as a quarterback, your job is to elevate everybody around you. And Mahomes does that better than anybody. I mean, Mecole Hardman, Sky Moore, Justin Watson. Like, he doesn't have all-pro wide receivers, ladies and gentlemen. He has a pretty good tight end. But his receivers, especially since Tyreek Hill have left, non-existent. But he makes them great.
Now, I do think DeAndre Hopkins is going to play a huge role in this.
Yes.
He hasn't been much all year, but this guy, you know his name for a reason. He's going to come out and shine in the big moments, and if he makes a big catch, especially early on in the game, that could blow open this Eagles defense that has been so good for so long. But if all of a sudden he starts going off, and then you have to deal with Travis Kelce, and then, Xavier Worthy on an end around, like, you never know what might happen. It really bolsters this Chiefs offense and makes them very dynamic if he gets going.
I'm going to give you real quick a key to the game that I feel like we're not talking about here. I think if you're the Chiefs, you attack Brandon Graham because that guy has not played football in a serious period of time, and he is pretty close to retirement. You could argue if the Eagles do win this Super Bowl, he's going to walk out a champion like a lot of people obviously dream of doing. I feel like if you're the Chiefs, you attack the guy that is least used to the speed of the game because no matter how long you're away, no matter how much practice you do, you are not ready when you step on the gridiron in the Super Bowl to stop anybody. So if I'm the Chiefs, I'm attacking him and establishing a presence there early.
Might be Jahan Dotson.
Could be.
So you got the X factors. You kind of have how the game plan, how Kansas City's going to win, they got to do this. How the Eagles are going to win, they got to do this. Now you're just going to put it all together. So for the final thing for this episode today, we're going to do who you think is going to win, the score, and your Super Bowl MVP to cap it all off, to cap off football season. Who wants to start?
I'll go. 27-24, and I didn't get to finish writing my homie. Look, I think this is going to be one of the better Super Bowl matchups we've had in a while, and I just can't bet against Patrick or Mahomes. There's only one other guy who I'll say I'll never bet against, and that's the guy that beat him in his only Super Bowl loss, Tom Brady. Patrick Mahomes has not given me a reason to bet against him yet, so I'm not going to do it. I think the Eagles are the far better team. I think they're superior on offense and defense, but I think Patrick Mahomes is going to find a way. Now, I do think it's going to be the Eagles who come up short. I think it's going to be a 2-minute drill. Patrick Mahomes is going to go down. They're going to kick a field goal. It's going to be 24-24. They're going to go kick a field goal, and Jalen Hurts is going to have a minute 58 with one timeout, and he's not going to be able to get them into field goal range. That's just my prediction. And then, of course, Mahomes is going to win the Super Bowl MVP. There's no reason he shouldn't. He's going to elevate this team to a level because they don't have that talent that the Eagles have. He's going to win it.
We saw something fairly similar to that when these teams met 2 years ago. Jalen Hurts had a shot, couldn't get it done. The Chiefs obviously were able to get a field goal to ice the game with 8 seconds left, and then a Hail Mary fell short. And that was an amazing Super Bowl, 38-35. It's not going to be that same way. Philly's defense is a lot better this year, but that doesn't matter. I still have a three-peat. I still have Mahomes winning the MVP because here's the concept I feel like people miss when talking about this game. Sure, it's Saquon's birthday. Sure, it's, I think, Cooper DeJean's birthday as well. You have motivation to play on your birthday, and the best present of all is winning the Lombardi, right? Only one problem. The Chiefs have a chance to do something that in the entire history of the National Football League, nobody has done. That is a different level of motivation because that doesn't just affect 2 guys getting a birthday cake. That affects the entire roster, from the starters to the third stringers and everybody in between. So I think the Chiefs are going to be motivated like they've never been before to win a Super Bowl because if they win this one, they're in the history books forever, no matter what happens after the future. Mahomes and the Chiefs could never win a Super Bowl again. This team will be talked about forever if they win on Sunday.
The Chiefs might get 3 Super Bowl trophies, but they will not be getting 3 votes. I'm going Eagles. I get it. I get Mahomes. I understand it. But the key to beating Mahomes is controlling the clock and scoring a lot. That's the key. And what team put up 55 points? Granted, against the Commanders' defense, but 55 points in a championship game, I don't remember the last time that was put up. I have no idea. And they can run the ball effectively. They have an offensive line that will pretty much take over any field. Chris Jones is not the same that we're used to. He's good, but he's not the same game wrecker. He's getting older. He's kind of like that Brandon Graham. He's getting older, but he has played, so he's used to it. But either way, I have the Eagles winning. They can run the clock out. They can score. And because they can run and score, I have Saquon Barkley winning the MVP. I have the Eagles 34-31. Breaking this streak so that we don't have to see a Taylor Swift proposal to Travis Kelce and then run off to the sunset in the back of whatever the coyote thing is they have.
My last word is just that marriage changes people. Saquon got engaged this weekend. Who knows what might happen there? But more realistically, we haven't talked about the head coaches yet, and we don't need to talk about them very much because there's not much to talk about. You got Nick Sirianni on one sideline. You got Andy Reid on the other. Both in true weight and just weight of how good of a coach they are, severely outweighs the other. Andy Reid in both categories. Andy Reid is going to outcoach Nick Sirianni in the Super Bowl, and I think that's going to give them that slight edge as well, because if it were just purely the 2 teams on the field, the Eagles should win it all day.
Yeah.
But that Andy Reid coaching mind,
I don't think they've
special there.
I don't think the Chiefs in their 2-peat so far, or any Super Bowl experience, have faced a team quite built like the Eagles.
No,
you cannot find a weakness, and there's only so much that coaching can get you past, and ref help can get you past.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
That's help.
The weakness is the
Let's
pass
not
defense, which is
talk
the
about
Chiefs, which is where the Chiefs thrive. The Eagles do not have a stellar secondary by any means.
They don't have a stellar, but they do have a gritty one. Like, they have a good one. I mean, if you look at it, they're not like superstars or X factors, but they're pretty good. Quinion Mitchell has been stellar as a rookie. I mean, he's been really phenomenal.
Here's like the night thing to end this conversation. The best coach in Philadelphia history is on Kansas City's sideline. Kansas City wins.
Silence. Fortunately, I'm glad Brian picked the Eagles because I'm a Chiefs guy as well, so 3-1 over on this side. I don't know what the other panelists had in mind, but I'm sure that it would kind of be somewhere skewed towards that direction. But besides that, that is going to do it for today's episode of the Extra Point Super Bowl edition. Special thanks to the panelists that came on and talked today. Special thanks to Tigervision for getting this all going. As always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Tigervision on YouTube. But for the panelists from Jordan York, Brian Warner, Toby Corriston, I'm Griffin Barfield. We'll see you next week. See ya.